Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cheer Chronicles podcast. I am your host, Rosie, and this is the episode with Judge Mimi. Judge Mimi is a seasoned veteran in the cheerleading world with over 2 decades of experience. With a background in competitive dance, Mimi transitioned into coaching high school and university teams before immersing herself in judging, holding certifications from Cheer Canada, USASE, ICU, Open, and Varsity. She travels across North America and beyond, evaluating competitions and serving as a panel judge at numerous World and Summit Bid events. Off the judging panel, Mimi shares her expertise by creating informative cheer content for her TikTok and Instagram followers under the handle at judge.mimi. I am beyond excited for this episode. If you guys have been following us for a while, I have been talking about Judge Mimi in almost every episode. I follow her on Instagram. She has such good information about cheer and all things judging. So please enjoy this episode and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Y'all. Hey, hands to go. Welcome to the Cheer Chronicles podcast with Rosie.
Okay, so welcome to the Cheer Chronicles. We are here with Judge Mimi. So excited to have you on. I follow you on Instagram, obviously. That's how I connected with you. So we're going to get quickly into the first question. So how did you get into judging?
Yeah, I kind of got cornered into judging. I was at a competition as a coach and they were missing a judge and we were only doing a demo team. So it was a university team that I was coaching at the time, and we were doing a demo, and then there were like a bunch of judges missing, and it was like an amicable like competition. And so they were like, we need you on panel, like just jump in. You don't know what you're doing, but it's been like 15 years, but it was like, you don't know what you're doing, but it doesn't matter because we don't really have a score sheet, just give feedback. And I have this background, this dance background. And so I was like, yeah, I could do it. I've been coaching and judging for a while. Like I can try to figure it out, on the fly. And I did it. And I think I just got, like, I found a way to help, I found a way to be part of this industry, not just as an athlete, as a coach, but also like this was like another space where I could like come in and jump. And so it was not my, like I didn't decide I wanted to judge, but judge kind of picked me. And then an event producer saw that I was having a lot of fun and like it was coming to me very easily to give feedback. And so they took me on, and it's been 16 years now. So
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like you were put on the spot there.
A little bit. Yeah. It was kind of like, you're the oldest one here. Let's go. Okay.
Did you judge? Do you judge in Canada and the US? Do you do both?
Yeah, I do Canada. I do the US. I do Australia. And then I am talking with some people in South America right now to see if I could do more virtual competition. All of my Australian competition right now are virtual. So I do that on Friday overnight and Saturday overnight, which is their Saturday morning and Sunday morning.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly Canada and the US. I would say 70% of my competitions, like 60% are probably in Canada and then 40% in the US.
Okay. Yeah, shout out to that Australian co-ed team. They did really well.
Yeah, they did, right?
Yeah, they did really, really well. So you've coached. Tell us a little bit about your coaching background.
Totally. I started coaching when I was an athlete. So I was a university athlete and back in Quebec. So I'm from Montreal originally, but back in Montreal, school teams were very popular. So high school is where I started coaching. After I finished my dance career and then I had like my cheerleading career, I just felt the need to coach and teach still because I used to teach as a dance teacher. And so there was this school that I used to be a day camp instructor for. and they had this opening. They were like, we're looking for like girls have been asking for a cheerleading team. Would you be open in coaching it? And I was like, oh my God, yes, I would love to. And it was a paid position. So that was great also for me, because as a student, it's good like hours. It's after when you study. And so I decided to jump in and do one team. And we had, I think, 26 girls the first year. And then the second year when we did the audition, we were thinking of just having one team, and then 100 and something people showed up, and we were like, oh, this is going to be popular. So we decided to open 2 team and have a level 3 and a level 4 and a practice squad. And then the year after, we did a level 2, a level 3, a level 4. And then we added a tumbling class with the local tumbling gym. And it just really took off from there, where I was having fun doing what I wanted to do. The school was very supportive, and they wanted to invest in cheerleading. And they saw this as they didn't have a lot of female sports offered at the school. They had a big football and hockey male presence, and so they were looking for kind of the female equivalent, and it was a private school, and so they just decided to pour in. We got mats, we got uniform, we got it was just they were like, this is it, this is the future, and they really believed in it really early on. And still to this day, this program is running, even though I'm not there. I'm not on the East Coast anymore, on the West Coast, but this program is still fully running in Quebec.
Wow, that's amazing. And the fact that they were so interested in the sport, because you don't get that often with cheerleading.
No, exactly. And that's what I think I like the most in Quebec. Everybody that is coaching cheerleading, most people are being paid, and they're being compensated for their time for being there. And there's a lot of subvention, grant money that you can get for that. And so the schools are very supportive of it, and they see it as a differentiator. It is not the case right now where I'm at in BC. And so that is also sometimes I find it challenging, because I've known this supportive system, and the high school game of cheerleading is so big in Montreal and in Quebec, so big. Wow. So many schools, so many programs. You could do a program full-time if you wanted to, where all of your classes, all of your PE classes would be cheer related, and you would get evaluated on that. It's just so
That's
big.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost like the Texas of Canada for cheerleading.
Texas is pretty big on cheerleading. When you were a cheerleader, what was your position?
I was a base.
Okay.
I was I'm 5'7", so I'm pretty tall, coming from a dance background, tap and ballet and so on. I wasn't really muscular, and that played against me in my first season. I tried out for the team, and I didn't make the team. And then I decided I wanted to go, I will go to the gym. Cheerleading is in my future. I will work. I will do, so perseverance is a lot, it's in my story a lot, I find. But it was I didn't get picked. I really wanted to do this. This was my thing that I thought I would do for college and uni. And so I went back to the gym, and I really started building muscle, because I wasn't comfortable in the air. Even though I was a dancer, you're usually more in charge of your own body weight, and you don't really trust other people to move you around, right? And so, and then I started basing. I went to the gym, and I built muscle, and I did cheer outside of school, and I learned the sport. And from there, I did the team the year after.
Wow. Yeah. I tell my flyers all the time, especially my elementary kids. I tell them all the time, I'm like, as a flyer, you have your own job to do. These girls aren't just there to just put you up and you just hang out up there. You got to hold your own weight. You got to do your own thing.
And not try to counterbalance yourself too much. I think that was my problem. I was trying to lift my feet to move, but that's not how it works for cheerleading. You have to trust that your base will move you if you're off balance, and not try to catch yourself. And that was a learning for me. But no, I'm a base.
Both my daughters are bases.
And we need triple the bases than we need flyers, right? So not everybody can fly, but
I like them being bases. I feel like with the flyers, there's a lot of extra pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the moms feel that too.
Yeah.
And so I like that they're flyers and I don't have to worry about
That their
them.
bases. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I like that they're bases. Yeah. So, how many comps do you judge in a cheer season?
Mm, so like a small season, maybe I'll judge like 10.
Okay.
And like a big season, I will judge around 30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like this season, this past season, it was one of the big one for me. I was gone almost every weekend. And you know how it is with children.
Mhm.
Like it's hard to leave every weekend in April and in May and in March and feel
Yeah.
like you're missing out on stuff, like every Friday going on the plane and going to a different place and judging. Like I'm doing 30 hours a week in 2 days, and then I'm flying back at night because I have my regular job and my kids and school to take care of on Monday. And so, not gonna lie, 2 weeks ago, like I was probably not on social as much. Like that's probably what people saw, but like I was out of it. I was tired. I
Yeah.
was like, it was just a lot. So, like, if there's anything I've learned is there's so many good judges out there, and like education so that there are more judges that can judge competition is a big thing for me that I want to like invest time on because I can't be everywhere and I want to be with my family and I want to support the sport and I want to be able to do both. But 30 competition a year is not sustainable
Yeah.
multiple years. Like I want to be in 40 years still be judging and not burn
Mhm.
myself out like two
Right.
seasons, you know?
Yeah, and then when if your girls start doing cheer, I
Mhm.
mean, how are you gonna manage all of that?
No, that's exactly it, you
Yeah.
know? Like right now, my kids are like my oldest daughter is into snow sports. So she's
Mhm.
into like skating and skiing. And then my youngest daughter is more into swimming. I guess it's the age. So, yeah.
They'll find their way into cheerleading, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of like letting them choose. I feel like
Mhm.
cheer for me was such a choice. Like I wanted cheer. Like I told you, like I didn't make the team. Went and like trained for it and I learned about the sport and I was really passionate about it. And I want them to pick that too. Like whatever the sport is, like I want them to be a choice and not because mom is so into this thing and I don't want them to have the pressure of being my kid, you know?
Right.
Like whatever, if they want to do it, great, I'm supportive. If they don't, I'm like, great. If they want to do another sport, like absolutely fine. Like whatever they want to do, I'm kind of like it has to be their thing, you know?
Yeah, it's hard for me because I love the sport so much, and I was lucky enough that both the girls have fallen into, cheer and they love it, and they do multiple teams because they do school teams and then their all-star team, and so far they haven't gotten tired of it. So that's good.
That's
We
good.
love
Yeah.
it. We're definitely a big cheer family. Um, so what type of cheer judge are you? I know that there's some judges that just do like legality, some do
Mhm.
jumps.
Yeah, totally. My specialty is overall. So
Okay.
coming from like the dance background, everything that has to do with showmanship and formation transition, the way you're building your choreography, the way you're performing it, and then your dance is usually where I like it's my favorite score sheet. But also like I'm a panel judge, so for different scoring system, I can do other things too. So I do tumbling difficulty, like if I need to be moved out, like I've done judging for so long that I'm
Mhm.
able to like I'm certified in a bunch of different areas. I do not do legality anymore. I feel like the sport left me behind when I stopped coaching and then they added level 7, which is like level 6, but now it's
Yeah.
7. And like I respect the legality judge that I know so much and I know how good they are that I'm like, you know what, it's a calling and like my thing is more creativity and I like it more this way. So yeah, I'm an overall judge.
Are you ever the judge where they come and,
AccuScore?
maybe yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes. Mostly on the comparative system.
Okay.
I do mostly AccuScore and the comparative system versus the United system or the open system.
Mhm.
Um, just yeah, Usually to be at AccuScore, you have to be trained in like every single like position. You have to have judge every single one of those positions. You understand the score sheet in and out. And being Canadian, I understand the comparative score sheet. So like the score sheet that is used at the World is the one that I'm like that I understand in and out. And that's usually the event producers that will put me at AccuScore, Score Check, or like as a head judge.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, how are the comp and score sheets different in Canada compared to the US? Do you guys use the same thing?
No, we don't.
Okay.
So okay, so there's like two different type of system in cheerleading, more or less. One is like, let's say three. One is a fully comparative one. So that means you are compared to the people that are showing up at your competition that day. We take everybody that is there at that competition and then we line them up. Like
Okay.
you had the highest level of difficulty, you were the second highest, you were the third highest, and we do that for every single one of those categories. We rank every single like team for in a division for every single one of those categories. That's comparative. That's the one that is used at Worlds, International Worlds, US Worlds. That's comparative. The
Okay.
other side is the rubric scoring system. So that's the Open Championship, that's United, that's everything that is used by Varsity. Summit is also rubric, and that answers the question, what should I put in my routine to score the highest? So
Okay.
they tell you straight up, like, you need 5 elite to be able to maximize this. Whereas in comparative, if you add a 6th elite, you don't know if anybody else is going to do that. So the strategy is just be the best like you can be, right? And then
Right.
upgrade all the time your routine. Whereas with United, once you have your 5 elite, you're
You're
good.
good.
You have your full score. You know, you like there's nothing else you could add to like do more. So those are like the two different one. And then in Australia, they have a hybrid one where they tell you, okay, you need to do your 5 elite to get in that range. And then like the pyramid range that United has, and then in that range, whatever else you do will like make you go up in that range.
Oh, wow.
It is widely different. UK
Yeah.
is on the United scoring system. Every other country is on the comparative one. Like it's just depending on where you're going, you need to be able to like swap, and you don't build a routine the same way for a comparative score sheet than you would for a United score sheet.
Right. Wow.
It's just like widely different. I've been helping team in Canada that are going to Summit, or in Australia going to Summit, or in UK going to Summit. And because they're not on that system all the time, we grab their routine and you're like, you may have too much tumbling here. You only need 12 athletes. You have 25 doing your tumbling. Just grab your 12 best and like it will up your execution. And then like just the little tweaks we can do in the routine to make sure you maximize that one score sheet.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just had my youngest daughter in Youth One at All Star Worlds went up against Top Gun UK.
Mm-hmm.
Wowza, they were amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, shout out to Top Gun UK. They did a really good job.
Shout
Won,
out again.
yay, they won first place and all the things.
Sweet.
Um, okay, next question. What's the toughest level to judge, would you say?
Oof. I don't know if there's a level. Okay, so I would say probably level 1,
Really?
realistically, just because the progression in level 1, there's just so much you can do in level 1 versus like between level 2 and 3, like the progression is a bit smaller. Like if we just take tumbling, for example, like front roll, cartwheel, back walkover, like there's just much more things, and then the combination of those things. So like in comparative system, if I'm looking at, let's say, tumbling, how do
Mhm.
I judge a team that has done 100% of the team is doing cartwheels, and then the other team after that is like 20%, 25% of the team is doing back walkover?
Yeah.
Which one is harder? Timing your 100 kids, like 100% of them, or just having a harder scale? And then you add like it's a front roll, cartwheel, back walk over 10% of the team. And then you're
Mhm.
trying to compare all this and you're like, there's too many skills,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
not. So I find that there's a lot you can do in level 1, and it takes a long time of getting out of level 1. once you start adding like the quarter turns and like all of the different body position, and like there's just so much you could do that I would say it's probably for me not the hardest, but the more complex
Yeah.
one probably.
Wow. I was thinking it was like a level 7 team.
No, no. Level 1 for sure. And like if you're looking at like positions, I would say building difficulty is probably the hardest panel judge position in my opinion, because there's a new stunt every week that is coming
Mhm.
up, and then you're trying to make sure like is that harder or not as hard, the way they did the grip or the twist or the turn and how they did it and how they went about it, like every single one of those stunt in the routine is going to be evaluated that way. So I would say
Yeah.
that's probably for me the hardest position on a panel.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about all of those. And usually, not all, but when you have all those level 1 teams and they're younger kids and they're all like together, I could see where you're saying if they all have
Mhm.
like cartwheels and then all the back walkovers. Sometimes they look like little soldiers out there, like they are just one person doing it. Yeah.
But it's also like my favorite level to judge, because
Yeah.
I think a really solid level 1 like can outsmart like any other like routine. It's like it's hard, but it's not too hard. So like you
Mhm.
can be really creative and you can like really do a lot of things. And like I would sit through a day of all level 1 like in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear. I love level 1. Um, how do you deal with coaches or gyms who challenge their scores? Like when you do the ACU score stuff, like
Mhm.
how do you deal with that? You can
Um
only imagine that people get real aggressive and I mean, they're competitive, right? Like,
Yeah, I would say like I approach it in a way where like I understand that everybody's really passionate about the routine, but
mhm,
also like I believe that we're not fighting score, we're discussing scores. Like there's it's it's an opinion based like sports for
mhm.
some category, right? So like difficulty is not like what is difficult, but like execution, like somebody like may like something better than another. And
Yeah, it's
so
very subjective.
some of it is really subjective, yeah, but also like we watch so much cheerleading. Like I think that's what people forget is that like sometimes I'll sit through 30 hours of cheerleading, 600 team in like a weekend. So like
Wow.
I consume a lot of cheerleading, and then I do 30 weekend a year. Like I'm like my brain is just I see cheerleading and it's like almost slow for me because I've seen so much, you know? So, like my approach for AccuScore is just let's have a conversation. It's education based. It's let's discuss it. Like I take you where you are. If you want to know what you like, what you need to do better, let's have a conversation about it. Like I'm all here to like help and support and so on. There's less and less people being heated
Mhm.
at AccuScore. I find that a lot of people are like heated before, but then like having a conversation face to face, it's almost like you know those Instagram like a Facebook warrior that are like
Yeah.
having a conversation, but then they wouldn't have that conversation face to face with anyone. That's what I
Mhm.
feel sometimes is like you come and see me and I'm like actively listening to you and trying to figure out what you're saying. I'm like, okay, you had this, you had that, like okay, great, like am I understanding this? And I'm like I feel like my role is like I'm the McDonald order person. Like I'm here to listen to you and make sure I have your order right, right? So you're telling me stuff and I'm like, yeah, 2 cheeseburger, okay. Like, yeah, okay, understood. Like I'm just like making a point of like really listening. I'm like, I'm taking your order, I'm making sure I understand what you're saying. And then when you're done, I'm like, are you done? Yeah, great, okay. And then I'm like, okay, now let's talk about it so that I understand every single point you've told me and I'm
Right,
able
you
to
don't wanna miss anything either. Yeah.
exactly. So a lot of active listening before jumping into anything else. And like sometimes people just want to be able to be like, I know we can't challenge this, but and then they just want to open their bag and you're like, you know what? Like, and sometimes they're bringing good point. I'm like, you know what? Let me write this down and we'll have a conversation on this later. But like, they're
Yeah.
bringing good points, and I'm like, we should address that. That's true, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I am in my competitions where I go to, and again, I told you they're Christian based. Um, they have it where we can't do that. I mean, we could challenge something obviously with difficulty or
Mhm.
but we can't go up to the judges and just have a conversation like, "Hey, why is this?" And I've told them, and I actually had a meeting with the director of the competition this past like 2 months ago. And I said, you need to have that because how are we as coaches supposed to grow and know, I'm maximizing my sheet 100%. How did I not, we executed the stunt. How am I getting a 3.8 out of 5? You know what I mean? To me, that's a stunt fall. Something happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good that people aren't too aggressive with it because I
Mhm.
always feel like terrible for the judges, and then I can only imagine like the coaches too, they get nervous, as
Yeah,
well,
totally.
going up there trying to challenge a call or say, "Hey, we don't agree with this," or "What can we do better?" So
And like
yeah.
sometimes like you'll never like just stop a judge when they're judging, another team to like discuss that. That's like I understand that's off limit, but also when I had judge and I see like people have question, like I'm also the face of the panel and so I'm thinking like what feedback do I need to pass to my panel right now? Is there not enough comment on those sheet? Like is that not like explained well enough? Then I go back in the comments, I make sure like I read the quality and I'm like, okay, as a coach would I get what I want from this, right? And so like oftentimes it's also a back and forth, right? If I see a lot of people coming and being like I don't understand this or I don't understand that, then I'm like, okay, what's the thread here and what do we need
Yeah.
to adjust
It's
on
a
panel
pattern,
right
yeah.
away so that like we have less people coming so that maybe the quality is better, our content is better. If like at some point in the season we like usually we only talk about what we see. So it's like noted the use of front spot in your stunt, for example.
Mhm.
But then like what I'm not telling you is that it's maybe it's affecting your difficulty, right? And like
Right.
sometimes going that second level is like
Mhm.
what you want me to spell it out, right? Like noted the use of front spot, it reduces your difficulty, like just
Yeah.
going that extra step of like, oh, it's obvious, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you have to be super specific. Um, Besides cheerleading world, what's your favorite comp to not to judge, but in general to attend? I feel like everybody loves cheerleading worlds.
I do. Yeah. I'm gonna send you down a rabbit hole here because, like, I'm gonna name something that you're gonna be like, "What is this?" There's a theme competition in Montreal that I've judged ever since it started. Every year, you can vote for the theme of the competition, and
Okay.
then the whole like the background, the MCs are like dressed up, the spotters are dressed up. Like 2 years ago, it was Under the Sea, and like the MCs were dressed like Poseidon and like the
Oh,
Little
wow.
Mermaid. The front spot were raised like stingrays, like they were like spotters dressed in stingrays. All of the people working the competition are in costume. It is so cool. And last year it was disco. It's called Kicks Celebration, and
Okay.
it's a really large um event for World's Bid. I think they have like 16 bids, I want to say.
Wow.
And it's the last competition before the cutoff. Like, there's no more bids after that, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, it was disco. They were dressed up with like afros, full like elephant pants, like
Yeah.
music. There was disco ball. You would finish your like position, and then like the light would go down, and then the disco ball would start turning. Like, it's such a cool competition. Like, that's definitely an experience.
Wow. Sounds like we need to be going over there.
It like you know what? If like I say that all the time, but if you want to have like feedback on the comparative score sheet
Mhm.
before going to World, going to Canada is your best option because we do this day in day out every weekend. Like we do like that's what we're good at, we do that all the time. So going to a Canadian event for like a World's team, you'll get that feedback right away. How do you compare?
Yeah, just to see. That's
Mhm.
good to know. Yeah. So, did you hear about this red card challenge at All Star Worlds? What are
Yeah,
your thoughts on that? Because some people, I'm part of this Facebook page called Crazy Cheer Moms.
Okay.
I mean, people go on there a lot for like advice. But some people were outraged that people were using the red card challenge and they were calling it rat behavior.
Mm.
And to me, it's just like I kind of had a whole podcast on it. To me, it's just like any other sport. If you see something happen and a coach brings it to a referee or brings it to a judge, brings it to their attention, kind of like, hey, I'm calling this play like it's a penalty or whatnot.
Hmm.
To me, it's kind of the same thing, but people were outraged. What are your thoughts on it?
I was surprised of how it all went down because when it was announced, I was like, not anyone, like no one's talking about this right now. And it's like huge, like it could change everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
why is no one talking about this? Like, I was really surprised that people were not talking about it more than it was. But then, like, All Star World happened. And I guess, like, at that point, like, now people started using their red card, right? So at that point, people were like, whoa, 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 like, hey, what's happening? You know? So, like, I thought it was interesting that it happened, like, later than I expected. I understand the need for it in the
Mhm.
industry. Like it's so frustrating to be in a division and then be like, this person like something was missed.
Mhm.
Something was clearly missed. Everybody sees it or you see it on social media. Like it is obvious and like humans behind the panel, like the 10 humans that are in charge of judging, like missed it. And it's very frustrating not to be able to have a voice. So like I understand the need for that. But I also love the idea of like if you use it wrong, you like
You don't get it back.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like that's gamify it. I'm like, I think that's funny because it's like this way you're not gonna have someone that is just there like I'm challenging, right? Like it kind of toned it down a little bit. The only thing that I'm like worried about is that you stop being focused on your team and your controllables and you start worrying about other team and like where can we get them, you know?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, if I remember like as a coach and as an athlete, like my experience was with my team, my coach, the people around me, and not worrying about what other team how they were doing or this or that, looking at their score sheets. Like I wanted to know what I could do better. And so that's the part where I'm like, it could get to a place where it's like a little bit unhealthy, you know,
Mhm.
where
Yeah,
it's like,
where you're worried about the other teams. I didn't
yeah,
find that too much. I mean, from what I saw of it this past, because my girls go to All-Star Worlds. Um, so yeah, it was, I mean, people used it for sure.
yeah. Well, and that's a stake situation, you know? So I
Yeah,
would
for
expect
sure.
people to use it there, but yeah. It's like, do you start like what, like telling a parent like you're filming everyone?
Probably.
Like I'm just like this poor parent, like just
Has to sit through
my
40
parent.
teams. Imagine, yeah. So since you're the overall judge for most competitions that you judge, are facials really that important? Because I saw the video you did on that awesome flyer that you
Mhm.
commented on. I forget her name. You kind of mentioned her name.
I think Catherine from Weber.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she looked flawless, right? And she, like you said, she wasn't overdoing it.
Mhm.
So obviously we want facials, but are we overdoing it? Do you think sometimes is it too much? Do we gotta? I don't
Yeah.
know. Especially with the younger teams, they're like they overdo it, and
Yeah.
then I
I
think sometimes
think
they concentrate too much on the facials and they're not executing the routine. And so,
that's
what are your
it.
thoughts on that?
I think it's a swing. And like, I think for a while, like, let's say 5 years ago, like, people were not doing facial, like crazy facial. And then some team were doing it. And and then judges were like, oh, this is really good. This is what we would want to see. This is how it should look. And then I think the pendulum maybe swung too far on the other side, where like
Mhm.
now I feel like we see teams of like juniors that are like the whole time just like, and it's not real. Like
It
it's just
doesn't look
missing
realistic. Yeah.
soul. Yeah. And like that soul is like what we're looking for. We're looking for people to just have fun. And like some people do have fun with like facials, right? But some are, it's just, it doesn't feel natural to them. Like if you look at what's the name of that Tumblr? The Tumblr that used to be with Trinity
Okay.
Valley
Yeah.
College.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like a massive like sassy performer, but that's him, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's true to him, to who he is. And like we can't force him to be like, just be more sassy. Like his facials are uniquely his and it works for him the same way Catherine's facial on Weber works for Catherine, you know? Like
Right.
we have to understand that it's unique to the individual.
How do you feel about, and this happens quite often, I feel, even with the younger teams, when does it affect your score, I guess, when they communicate with each other on the mat? Like, and sometimes they do it
Yeah.
kind of subtle, like they nod at each other, they give each other a look, and sometimes it's like you could tell.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I've seen it all. Like okay, so if there's literally someone being like moving kids out of the way and like placing people and like you're not supposed to do this, like
Yeah.
you're disconnected with your routine also. Like if you have time to be there and orchestrate people, right? If you're supposed to be an athlete on the mat doing your routine and you have time to move people around and scream at people, you're not connected with what you're doing and you're
Right.
definitely not projecting to the public, to the judges, like performing out. You're like worrying too much about other people.
Yeah.
So it's a sweet spot between trust of your teammate and then on the other side, like if it was just mat talk, like you got this, you know,
Mhm.
like it's from the front, it's hard to know what is what, but you can see the body language of the person is like, you're supposed to be here instead of being like, you got this, you know, like it's just, it's a different like energy. So I would say yes, there's sometimes it is taking away and you're like, why is this person screaming, you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it will happen.
Yeah, for sure. So as a parent, as a cheer parent, we get super loud when our teams come
Mhm.
on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets a little ridiculous. For some of them, we have certain things that we yell. There's certain parts of the routine. Obviously, we all say hit when they're doing
Mhm.
their jumps, and we have like a certain little thing that we all say in the music when it
Yeah.
plays that you know that we're part of like Top Gun or whatnot. But and we also have noisemakers. We're the
Mhm.
ones with the whistles and the cowbells. Do the judges, are they like, we wish you wouldn't do that, stop doing that? Or does it make
Um,
a difference at all? Because I feel like we're hyping the girls up. They know that we're out there for them as a parent, right?
yeah.
As a coach, it doesn't really bother me. I'm
I
just
would
trying to
say
concentrate on my team, but
like the parents that are like present
mhm,
and doing noise or like the chanting the thing that are in the music in the same moment, like this is what we do, you know, and like they
mhm.
just go for it and they're not like filming and like
Right. Oh, God,
static.
yeah.
I would say it's much better to be on the side of like we're the loudest fan zone and like our kids have so much fun looking at us because they know how much fun we have looking at them, right? So I'm always going to be on the side of like have fun so that your kid can have fun. If everybody's just straight up filming and no one's moving, and then at the end it's like yay, then it's
Mhm.
the kids are usually like not performing as well too. The only thing though for parents,
Tell us.
I will say it here at during the dance, everybody's too fast going, like it's just no one's on beat, and it's like sometimes it's screwing everybody else. I'm like, just either be on beat or just be like, just
Or
don't clap.
pretend to clap. Just pretend you're doing
Exactly. Pretend to clap. Do not clap if you're not on beat because like it starts and then it goes just the tempo goes so fast. And then the kids are trying to like slow it down, but
it.
it brings their energy down. So like there's a sweet spot there that needs to be achieved.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. I have good rhythm though, so I don't need to worry about it.
But you've probably seen it, like we've all seen it in a competition where it's
Yeah.
like the music stop and then people start counting, but it's like 1, 3, 5,
Yeah.
7 1 3 5
And
7
it goes
1
to
3 5 7 1 3 5, and then the kids are like, you're too fast. And the coach gets frustrated in the front. 1 3.
I know, and they're just trying to be helpful, but they're not
Yeah,
helpful.
and you're like, stop.
I know. So as a judge, do you have an automatic higher expectation for D1 gyms or not really?
No, I
No.
don't. Like up to, I would say at Summit is kind of the only place where I know who's D1, who's D2. Like I'm Canadian. I don't know gym A from gym B. I don't know if it's a small gym, a big gym. Like, yeah, I recognize some gym name because they're like franchise, right? So like they have like what is like CA, like Sharks in Canada.
Right.
Sharks
Yeah.
has multiple location, but like if you take Shark Toronto, Shark Laval, Shark Calgary, they're all small gym. Like they're not so we don't know. Like and the teams are coming up so fast that sometimes I'm finishing my notes, and by the time like as the music start, my eyes are up and I'm like next team, and I don't have time to be like wondering where they're from. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
like let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. Um, Tell me about some of the hardest or toughest aspects to judge of judging in general.
Mm,
Apart from obviously the whole thing of, the mom guilt of being away from your family, but
yeah. Um, I think people don't understand the stamina it takes to be able to judge like long days. Like we're there from that first team to that last team.
mhm,
Like I am there sometimes 7:30 a.m. to like 11 p.m. 2 days in a row. And like
mhm.
I need to manage my own energy so that I am not like there's no nap time middle of the day where I could just be like
They don't have a coach's nap room where you could go.
where I'm like, okay, everybody, like I'm tired now, like nap time, you know? So like we're managing what we're eating, we're managing what we're drinking, when we're drinking it, because there's also no like washroom break.
Mhm,
So like when we go and like there's the first award is food. Like so it's like okay, I have like 3 hours to go, I cannot drink this coffee now, or it's like, oh, if I drink it, like will I make it to the end, like do I need it now? If I start eating candy and then I crash later on because of like sugar, so it's like we're managing our energy like the whole day, like a sweet balance. Like don't feed me pasta at lunch because I'll want to take a nap later, like so
mhm.
I'm like watching what I'm eating, when I'm eating it, what I'm drinking, when, like just it's just a lot of that. And like that, I think a lot of people like don't see it. Like we're judging every 6 minutes. And so
Mhm.
2.5 minute routine, 3.5 minute to write my notes, and then we go again, 7:30 to 11. Like
Wow.
the whole day. And then when you have 45 minutes, which is an award ceremony, to go to washroom, eat, and like relax, like
Mhm.
meditate, like then you're back out, right? So I think that's like a big thing. Like the hard thing for newer judge is building that stamina of being able to go through those days and like having the same level of quality and output during like 7:30 a.m. or like 10:59.
Yeah.
It is the same quality. It is like I have tools, for example, like I have a synonyms list. When I start being like, I say good all the time, like what other words can I have? I have a list of words. Like I say this thing, like I want to say center. What other word can I use? Like I have this list of synonyms so that I can go and like make it different, and
Right.
say like fresh. But that's I would say that's the hardest thing about a day.
Wow.
When you get in the system, we just expect you to go at the speed of those judges. And so it's like get on or get off the bus, It's you know?
Yeah. I can only imagine like to be a judge in those competitions and having to deal and just the noise alone. Sometimes I'm
Mhm.
in there 6 hours and I'm like, "Okay, I gotta go outside."
Do you have earplugs?
I don't. I
Okay,
don't,
so
but
I
sometimes
wear them.
I think about, obviously the AirPods are noise canceling, but I think about I need to put them in because it's a
Yeah,
lot.
I have the loop one, so like the loop earplugs, like you've probably fed like ad on like Instagram for them, and I bought them at during Black Friday. It was like 40% off, and I was like, okay, let's give it a shot because I had earplugs from Coachella, and I was like, this is like a game changer because when you're there 7:30 to 11,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of stimulation, right? And so they
Right.
have one pair that is the entertainment pair. You can hear the music like so crisp, but it's
Oh.
just like down.
Oh, wow.
And then there's like a little string, and they just like it's a magnet, and they
Oh,
just
okay.
magnet in, and they look like earring. They're like gold. Game changer.
I
Like
love
I
it.
don't
I
go
didn't know
anywhere
about
without
that.
those. I'm like, music starts. I'm like, I'm on. The only time I pull it out is for cheer chant,
Mm-hmm.
like school team. If they're gonna use their voice, then I'm like, I
Right.
want to hear it. But if anything, like I can speak to my coworker. I hear them. Like I hear the music really, really loud and clear. But it's taking the like
Yeah.
just like at a manageable level for the whole day.
Wow.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, that's good to know. Um, how do you remain objective towards certain teams or certain gyms? Like, I could only imagine, at least I know for us, like we probably have the same judges see our teams often throughout the
Mhm.
season. How do you remain objective? Because while, after every competition, there might be some changes to a routine.
Yeah.
They usually don't change like the whole entire thing.
Mhm.
Are you ever like, oh yeah, these guys again, here we go?
Like a little bit, but not that much. Like if you're like when you're judging the whole day, right? Then you've seen like 250 routine. It's hard to remember specifically one routine. Like I sometimes remember one routine where I'm like this one was really a standout. Like it was really good. Like I'll remember the routine, but then you bring me back 3 weeks later. I've seen 1,000 routines since then because I've continued judging. It like I'm like, yeah, what was that again? But like I don't remember specifically what it was. So every routine I just come in with a clear mind and I'm like, okay, what are they doing today, right? Because I don't know what happened in the past 3 weeks. Maybe
Right.
you change everything. Maybe you changed nothing. Maybe you lost half of your team. So I can't just
Mhm.
be like, do I remember those guys? Like I usually don't. And like I say that in the nicest way. Like
Yeah.
not a lot of people will remember like your routine because you're in it or your kid
Mhm.
is in it. And like you're like, oh now they're moving here and da, da, da. But those little things like I won't notice from one weekend to the other weekend because there's been 1,000 routines since. And now I'm like back and I'm like, it's like the same uniform as 20 other team that is at this
Right.
competition. The music, part of the music I've heard from other routine, like we don't
Mhm.
have like all new music. So there's not a lot of cues that will tell me like I've seen this before. The
Okay. Well,
only time
that's
I've
good to
noticed I've
know.
seen it before were like there was some gyms that were doing all of like let's say all of their novice level one all had the same music and the same
Oh.
routine, but they were in a bunch of different areas, right? So when they all came to competition, I was like, at the third team, I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. Wait a second. Like now I started queuing in, but it took me 3 teams to be like, what's in this before? Because then the kids are different. It's not the same piggy tail. It's not.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know because I worry about that. I'm like, do they remember our routine? And you don't because you see so many.
Yeah.
Um, what does one do to pursue judging?
There's a lot of opportunities and like now is kind of the time to go and like apply for those. There's you can apply on the Varsity website right now. It's an open like an open form for judges, so like you could apply to be a judge and like they like pass like mini interviews, just make sure like your resume is who you say you are.
Right.
Open championship had also an open form for a while, so like that should be like coming up. USASF usually after their conference or at conference in July you can do the panel judge certification for USASF. In Canada, we're going to be doing training by state, by province. So like the states of Canada. And so like your state is in charge of your own thing. Like for high school, go through your state
Right.
program. But like just reaching out, what I find is that there are a lot of judging opportunity. And like we need a lot of judges. Like cheerleading is only getting bigger. There's only more and more competition every weekend. And like I made like a video counting how many people were at NCA, and I think I said 185 judges were
Oh,
there.
wow.
And I think I got it wrong by like 5. Like maybe
Mm.
190 or like 180 were there, but that's how many judges. And like NCA weekend, there were other competition running at the same time. So it's not a scarcity model. Like we don't need like only like 7 judge and then nothing else. Everybody's looking for judges all the time. So if you want to judge, like put your name out there, start like reaching out to event producer, do your training, and then just tell people you want to judge. And then like people are going to be like, oh yeah, this girl wanted to judge. And now we have this opening and we'll get her in, and like, so.
So there's not like an extensive FBI background to judge at the cheer competitions.
It is the same as coaches. So we do our like I have a background check every year,
Right.
criminal record,
Fingerprints.
yeah, able to work with kids. Like
Mhm.
even though like realistically, like I'm seeing no kids while I'm on panel. Like they're on the floor. I'm like 20 feet away, but like we do the same like green check.
Right.
Thing through USASE and ISF in Canada. And so we have to go through everything and like the entrance, and you pay your membership, and you just, showcase you're a good human
Yeah.
and you're able to be tracked if need be.
Right. Um, what do you think about cheer becoming an Olympic sport?
Ooh. Uh like I kind of want to see it from my lifetime.
Yeah.
Will it? I have no idea. I still feel like there's a lot of um it's missing a bit of like synergy right now in cheer for us to like make it, I think, to the Olympic. In my opinion, like I find, let's say basketball, like the rules of basketball are just basketball. Like wherever you go, it feels a little bit the same. I find that we're still in cheerleading on different score sheet.
Mhm.
Now the rules are unified, but if you're looking like outside of North America, like cheer looks very different in Sweden than it will in like the Philippines and in Japan. And so like being able to unify the whole world through like one system, I think is going to be like our number one thing. And maybe the Olympic will be the deciding factor that will bring us there. That like,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be it. But I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think there's an opportunity there, but I just don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things that need to be put in place before like it culminates to that.
What do you think about people that say that it's not a sport? Which is one of the reasons, in my own opinion, I feel like it's not an Olympic sport yet. It's because most people don't feel it is. How do you handle when people are like, "Oh, that's you're spending your weekends judging cheer. Why? Why would you do that?"
Yeah. Like my answer has always been like just come and try a practice. And like
Mhm.
then you can talk.
Yeah.
Like just come and try.
It's funny
But
because in this past weekend when I had the cheer dads on, I asked the question and they said, "Just come watch a practice and then tell me it's not a sport." Yeah.
yeah, like realistically, like we have parents. I have a rec program here for like K and grade 1. And we have the parents at the end just do um a forward roll, a jump, and like a small stunt with their children. And the amount of parents that are dizzy from a forward roll and like jumping, and they're like, I'm gonna pee my pants. And so like I'm just like, come and try practice. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, come see what it's about.
Yeah, but I think for the Olympic, if I can just add one more thing there, is I think in the heart of cheerleading is cheering on other sport and on people and all that. And I think that distinction needs to be made. If cheer is going to be an Olympic sport, we cannot be of service of our nation to go and cheer on other people if we're going to compete.
Yeah.
And so that part needs to be like a full distinction, because I understand that like in the past, like cheerleading, like cheering on the sideline, cheering for basketball, for football, for like, like for other Olympic sport. But like if we're going as athlete, there should be no expectation that we are cheering on our country and other sport, like
Yeah.
this is two different roles.
Yeah.
And
I
it
get
needs
what you're
to be
saying.
like,
Yeah. That
so
makes sense.
if you're the
Yes.
athlete or if you're cheering, like it's just,
Yeah. Two different things.
yeah, and
Um,
not having that expectation. I know that a couple years ago, like Flyers All-Star from Canada went and did a demo, I think at Pyeongchang or something. And like that was the thing, is like they did a demo, but then they were expected to go and cheer, and it was just the role are still like it's still a little muddled.
yeah. It needs to be defined for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What skills or elements tend to be underscored or overscored when you judge?
Mm. Underscored. I would say maybe creativity tends to be underscored. I think there's this like misconception that creativity is unique, but
Mm-hmm.
no one said it's unicity that is being scored. It's creativity. So like it doesn't need to be unique to be creative. And so like I think that's one part that sometimes there are misconception and a lot of variety of way of looking at it, from a coach's perspective or a choreographer's perspective or like a spectator, and being like, that wasn't creative. And like,
Yeah.
so I feel like that could be like a place where there might be like a different, like a lot of difference. Um, and maybe showmanship, like energy, like how you perceive a team's energy. And like showmanship is on every single score sheet. So like a
Mhm.
building judge will judge showmanship, and a tumbling judge will judge showmanship, and an overall judge will judge showmanship, and it's an average. And so we all look at different part of the routine. So it's kind of good that everybody's doing that, because now we have different perspective. And we might
Yeah.
be like, oh, but this was so good. Oh yeah, but it wasn't in the stunt. So like I didn't like catch that, right? It's
Right.
like having everybody judge that is actually really helpful.
Okay. Um, what is the number one common mistake you see teams make overall? Thinking that it's a good idea and then it's not.
Yeah, reverse engineering your choreography. Being like, this person absolutely needs to be in front in jumps, or like all hell break loose. And then it takes them like 4 counts to make it to the front. And they're like, the chaos that it creates in your transition and formation change of having this one person come to the front, if they're not close to being there, that's like a complete misconception. Like, I think you would maybe score better if maybe she's your better jumper, but maybe she's in the back because she's closer, and you can just make your position like much smoother. And in the grand scheme of thing, you will score better that way. That if you're trying to bring that person straight to the front because she's my best one and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So like,
Oh, that's good to know for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a misconception. Having the flow smooth of just being like, people take 3 step and boom, they're there. Like that, automatically we're like, they got it nailed down. They're
Okay.
confident, we know where they're going, right? And so that's the part that I find people are like, this is my tumbling section and this is my building section, and now I have to like figure out how Sally is
Mhm.
gonna make it to Mary's spot, and like Logan's here but he needs to be there. And then they try to make it like, I know it's a big puzzle to put together, but
Yeah.
like if the more the sections make sense and you're like, oh, you're here, you're just going forward. Thank you. Like that's your position. That's
It looks cleaner too.
mhm.
And
It
then the
gives
kids,
vibe
if
also that you know more.
yeah, and the kids too, even if they try and run, with their hands, arms by their sides, and it still looks like you're like, whoo, you're jetting it down, to the other side of the mat. So yeah, that makes sense. What advice would you give teams about impressing judges? Because you get that a lot. I feel like as a mom, you hear it a lot, especially from athletes, like, oh, the judges didn't like our routine or they hated our dance or what advice would you give them?
Hmm. I don't know if like you know what like you're saying like they hated our dance, but I don't know if I've ever said like, oh my god, I hate this dance. Like I think I've always approached it from a place of like, oh, there's opportunities that they're not taking that I kind of wish they were. I would say if you want to like really make an impression on the judges and on the public overall, looking at the public versus looking at the coaches, like we see a lot of teams that let's say if um sorry, that's my favorite. That like that's your mat. If you have like coaches on both sides of the mat, the team is going to be divided in two, and they're going to like one part of the team is going to look on one side, the other part's going to look at the other side. But the public's up front, right?
Right.
And like not shying away from looking at the public and like the judges and like really making that eye contact. That probably makes the biggest difference. The team that
Yeah.
are comfortable on the mat and not shy away from like looking up front.
Yeah, I tell my teams all the time, pick a judge. Even though, with all the lights, they probably don't see you very well. But I'm like, pick a judge, and just smile at that judge like that's your person, you know?
Yeah.
But it's good too when they're looking down and interacting with the crowd as well.
Totally. And like
Yeah.
all venues are different. Sometimes we're close, sometimes we're far, sometimes we're high, low, like
Mhm.
crowd on the side, no crowd on the side. Like so like really being able to adjust the way you're performing to the scale of the space really helps.
Yeah. What advice would you give to smaller teams? I struggle watching just as obviously I'm not a judge or anything, but just as a parent, I struggle watching like smaller teams taking control of the mat, and it's got to be difficult to have like 12 athletes up there and it's such a big space.
Mhm. There's some really good team in like California. Like I judge a virtual event for the Spirit Network this season, and there was this one gym that had a lot of like smaller team, like in the 12, 14 range, and
Mhm.
they were able to build that energy in their routine by moving and almost like skipping in between position and like just the projection of their energy in between their formation change and going like fully off center, fully in the back, fully in the front, like just really moving as a body, like and really being upbeat and moving in their stunt. They would get up, they would move, they would come down, they would move forward, like that was really effective. And so, like, not thinking of your routine as like a static thing, but thinking of it as like everything could be off centered and it
Yeah.
would still be like doing good, right? Off center, like a V in the front, a V in the back, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be middle of the mat like all the time.
Yeah, I had a routine 2 years ago with my middle school team, junior two, and all our tumblers came off from the edge of the mat towards the other end of the mat, and I just thought like it caught the well, we didn't win, we got second place, but I feel like that caught people's eyes, and in
Yeah.
fact, the cheer guys were there, doing their comments. I don't know if you know them, but it's 2 guys, and they call themselves the cheer guys, and they comment just on the routines as they're happening,
Hmm.
and, they were like, "Whoa, that looks pretty cool that they're all coming," like, it wasn't like we started, in the middle of the mat. You could tell there was, like, a difference there. So, yeah, that does make a difference. Alright, so it is time, and you didn't get these questions.
Oh, okay.
It's time for the send-off round, which is
Okay.
like my version of a lightning round.
Sweet.
Yes. Alright, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, favorite world's team?
Um, Karma. Flyers All-Star Karma. They are
It
like the most decorated team in Canada in all girl,
Wow.
7 non-tumbling.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay, karma. What's your cheer pet peeve?
Open mouth for like as a facial expression.
Yeah.
catching bug, I call it. Like, just no.
Oh no. You know how many of us tell the kids to do that like all the time?
But just a straight like I'm like, no.
Oh, they're not even smiling. They
No.
just I got
I
it.
just
Okay. Got it. We gotta stop that. Okay. Most memorable or impressive routine you've judged ever.
There was this one routine. I was in Charleston, South Carolina. It was like a mini team or like a junior one team, and they had a tango theme. And it was
Oh.
one of the most creative routine I've seen. Like they did a pyramid while holding each other and then walking like the pyramid move as if it was a tango thing. They were doing arms, like they did like a pour de jambe like with their leg. It was so creative and like so easy. Just instead of doing an arabesque, they went and folded their leg a little bit and it looked like tango. And like I remember this routine vividly. Like, and it's a level 1 routine with a flower in their head, like beautiful routine.
Wow. Awesome. Tell me a time where judging inspired you.
Anytime there's a cheer abilities team,
Mhm.
I would say I'm looking at that and I'm like, there's some days where you're like, "Oh, I don't feel like XYZ. And then you see this and you're like, anything is possible. And this
Right.
sport could change the world, you know?
Yeah. And the last question, if you could describe judging in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, in one word.
Mhm.
Mm, I would say inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like I think about, when we read the judges comments,
Hmm.
because I share that with my teams, whatever they say, and you could obviously have a relationship with your athletes, right? Where you try and inspire them, and you obviously, when they do something wrong, you correct them and you try and lead them. But whatever the judges put on the score sheet, they do not forget. Even
Hmm.
like the littlest ones, they're like, the judges said this, like, and
Yeah.
they try and make a difference. Like, you're behind a panel, they can't see you, and you're making a huge difference in their little cheer life. I don't know if you guys know you do that, but you do.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I could see why it's inspiring for sure. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Everything you guys put on there, whether it's like good job or great facials or center flyer who did this, like it makes a huge difference for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we do it, right? We love
Right.
this sport and I want more children to be part of this sport. And so if it's my way to give back, then this is it, you know?
Yeah. So awesome. Awesome. That's it. That's the interview. Thank you so, so much. I've been talking about you for weeks that you're going to be on this podcast. I am like so excited that we did this. Thank you for taking the time
Well,
with
thank you so
us
much
to be
for
on the
having
Cheer
me.
Chronicles.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you guys listening and watching at home, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Cheer Chronicles podcast. Thank you again, Judge Mimi. We will maybe see you around. Who knows if we'll run into each other at a cheer cop.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.